Being aware of the fact that sometimes bad trailers are made for great movies, and even bad reviews happen with good movies, I decided to wait until Ghostbusters 2016 was free and gave it a chance. I'm not sure how to explain the depths of boredom I have to reach before I start writing my own story. I didn't even do that with The Last Jedi, and that made me fall asleep and put me off Star Wars for like months. I didn't do that with this Ghostbusters because, well, it was obviously made by someone who does parodies. It wasn't funny enough to really qualify for a proper parody, however, so here we are. I wrote it in 10 minutes and posted it in many comment sections, but since Pilgrim's Pass so kindly took me up on my random thought of making a video, I decided to be a little more thorough here. A little. So as someone who has tragically not had an opportunity to see Afterlife yet, how would I see the passing of the torch story? To make this work, you would need to create characters that fill the original roles but with a mix or two of other things, say their bloodlines or individually added traits. Let's start with the characters. Safe to say Janine and Lewis had a kid. Her character could be very similar to Egon with a quirk or two from her parents. Let's call her Tiffany. That just feels right. Say Oscar got older and didn't want to do ghostbusting, but got stuck on hard times and ends up a secretary. Our Janine proxy would be perfect for him. He would obviously be attractive, especially considering his mother Dana and father the violinist. I think Dana and Peter would have a kid. Patience. I went with Patience Worth. Connect her to Pearl Curran. You'll have fun. I was always nervous about what kind of kid they would make. Her character could have all of her mother's suave and receptive reading skills, with her dad's ability to hustle. In a killer dress that would make her an ultimate weapon, which I guess makes her the Dana Venkman proxy. Winston strikes me as someone who had a lot of kids. He just seemed a nice, hardworking family man. I think I'll throw two girls in there, one just as a random side pop-up that occasionally harasses the other as she's not as into this science stuff. It would be a good way to help her development. We'll call the main character Danielle. I like the idea of her obsession with Egon being what kicks off the ghostly troubles. I also think I want her to be the Ray proxy. This also gives her a few extra traits she could get from Egon as her former mentor, and of course from Winston. Then we have Ray. Kind of like Egon, sorry, Afterlife, but I could never picture them reproducing on some basic level, unless he did it in a lab. Egon, I always figured he just wouldn't take an interest in women, but Ray, I think, would have trouble finding one. So I decided a one-night stand from some random groupie was a good idea. Someone coming to look for their father would make an excellent POV character. We'll call her Adria. And since in New York, I decided to go with Puerto Rican. Now for the initial premise of the story. A young woman's voice. Uncle Egon, can you hear me? Uncle Egon, can you hear me? Electric currents flicker and vanish. Next scene. Dana and Peter's daughter, Patience, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, Madeline Carroll, Daniel Campbell, or Holland Roden, shows up on an ad for a politician. The Ghostbusters headquarters. Winston's kid, Danielle, played by Leah D. Jackson, India Skandrick, or Letitia Wright, is working on a project, a picture of Egon above it. A phone rings. Her sister gets a no on going out, and then lectures her on her obsession with ghosts and Egon's passing, getting in the way of any kind of human existence. Dad's proud. Egon was a mentor. I get it. But you're alive. And even Dad agreed that you need to get out. Among the living. She gets a, can we do this later? I'm so close, Leah. Whatever. Click. Janine and Lewis's kid, Tiffany, played by Annalise Basso, Bella Thorne, or Karen Gillan, comes in and looks over her notes. You're close. Keep going. My parents say the same thing. Look at me. Danielle looks skeptical, but warms to her childhood friend. Thanks, Tiff. Enter Patience. As long as it doesn't get in the way of toy and gadget design. Danielle. Speaking of making parents proud, how goes the flea circus, Patience? Patience. I'm sorry. When the paranormal dried up, who got us government funding? Tiffany steps in and shows Patience a long contraption. Upgraded ghost sensor is ready. Patience. Does it work? Tiffany. Of course it doesn't. Danielle. Patience, have you considered that you're leaving people in danger with that thing? Patience. The government doesn't like the idea of such equipment in the hands of the average citizen. It gets us work and keeps us in the clear at the same time. Translation, you get to tinker with your little projects. Tiffany stiffly hands Patience the device quickly enough to block Danielle from getting into it with the boss. Perfectly understood. Now, we have tinkering. Patience, with a nose crinkle, says, "You'd understand, Tiff," and leaves with a playfully arrogant swish to celebrate her new moneymaker. Out into the lobby, who does Patience see but Oscar? Oscar, played by Justin Timberlake, Robert Pattinson, Hunter Parrish, or Lucas Till, reluctantly steps forward. He's struggling post-divorce and unfortunately lost both home and a shared business. He isn't thrilled to be here. Due to the events of Ghostbusters 2 and a few other fun but inevitable situations from having family in the paranormal game, he associates ghosts with genuine terror. To top it off, he's hardly spoken to his sister in years, as he feels, despite their parents' efforts, has gone full con artist. But it was the quickest way he could think to pay off debts, have a place to sleep, and rebuild his life. Little bitter, but a good guy, a lot like his mom and Janine. "There's the desk," is the most his sob story gets from his sister. Sitting at Janine's old post, he's remembering his past, an aversion to this place, something dark and terrifying. I actually wouldn't do a Ghostbusters 2 flashback, necessarily. I would take advantage of the fact that he had a near possession to show he could have memories of certain events of Ghostbusters 2 for him to remember. In the midst of this, a woman would walk in. Ray's lost child, Adria, played by Anna Isabel. Sophisticated, but has a tendency from her dad of doing the wrong thing at the worst time. Her mother was a big fan and had a one-night stand with Ray and ran. All she would say is something about a ghost being involved. Still, she finally got answers, however few, and wanted to meet her father. Unfortunately, Oscar informs her the founding members were on a vacation to relax, having formally retired. She seems heartbroken and just asks about perhaps working there so she can wait. Patience enters. Another scene of Danielle and Tiffany working, and something going right and wrong at the same time. While this is happening, Patience is resisting the idea of hiring someone when there's no work, and she hasn't been vetted by the right people, given who she works with now. The commotion from the experiments in the other room spills into theirs in a manifestation of a frightening sort. This gets Patience saying, "You're hired." While the Spectre rushes out, Patience goes to kill the two who clearly started this, and Adria, noticing Oscar, who seemed, well, sturdy before, went to retrieve him from under the desk. I see this leading to various arcs. Patience is clearly the villain, but is reformed through the serious trouble they're getting into, coming to a disillusionment of the people she made bedfellows with, an actual bonding with the girls, and a reconnecting with her brother. Tiffany eventually takes her parents' advice and ends up with a guy, which, to me, gives a little of a Janine got Egon sort of feel in it, but in a second-generation sort of way. Danielle doesn't get a man, no, but she does learn to appreciate living and learn to move on. Actually go out with her sister now and again, but does continue at Ghostbusters, of course, just not obsessively. Yes, I would have done something as a tribute to her mentor, though I doubt it would have compared to whatever Afterlife did. Adria learns to cope with the world she's thrown into and becomes a Ghostbuster herself. She finds an additional family in the people around her, including Ray, who would be more than thrilled to meet her, I'm sure. Oscar learns to reach his sister he didn't fight enough to keep on track as the elder sibling, and overcomes his fear of ghosts. He also finds love in Adria. I figured a romance was necessary, considering the original had one, but I didn't want too many to boggle it down, as that was never the point, and they just seemed to fit somehow. In the end, if I did do something real like this, I would make sure to have a team of people whom I know could ride the line between horror, comedy, and heart that the original did. Not saying I can't write like that, but I'm not super familiar with New York, and there are other areas of perspective I would require help with, but definitely would have to be big fans, and I would certainly need animators. Anywho, that's the general idea. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings for the day. Have a good one!